Many people have many different views on hunting, guns, fishing, and all those kinds of things. With the recent things in the news about the Orlando shootings, there's been many different views on what is right and what we should do with the guns and the anti-hunting and PETA and all of those things. They have been in the recent news with all the things going on. But I think that hunting is more than just a sport or more than just killing animals or anything like that. Hunting has been more than just that for me, at least. It has been a passion that I've always had and that came to me when I was young. When I was 10 years old, I can still remember the first time my dad took me out hunting. It was a cold October morning, and we had to walk and walk and walk and walk to get to our hunting spot. But I can still remember the smell in the air and the crisp grasp against my skin, and everything about that day just sticks in my head. But I think that hunting is more than just a sport, especially to me. Last summer, I worked for the Howard County Conservation Board, and we were doing a project at Lake Hendricks, and we had an issue with the number of geese there. But instead of just going through and killing all the geese, we decided to get the DNR in there, and we relocated the geese. We took them when they were young, a year old, and we relocated to a different spot, a more safer area, so that they wouldn't be in any kind of danger there, and the people who were staying at the parks wouldn't be dealing with the noisy geese and annoying geese and the geese poop everywhere and stuff. Also, another thing that we did while they were there was if we saw any eggs that the geese laid, we wouldn't crack them or anything, but we would go and we would shake them. So that way any babies that were inside would die and the geese would still go back to the eggs. Otherwise, if we would go crack them or throw them away or something, the female geese would just go and lay new eggs. The only issue that we would run into is geese mate at the same spot every year. So some of them, even if you really relocate some of the older geese, they'd still want to come back to the same spot. So we ran into that problem, but it was more of a humane way to relocate the geese and get them out of there instead of just going through and shooting them all. Another thing that we do that makes hunting more than just a sport is the conservation of it. Most of you probably live in the Midwest or in Iowa, and you know how many people hit a deer each year and it causes damage to them or to their vehicle. Annually, about 1.5 billion people are in deer versus car-related accidents. The majority of those accidents are in the Midwest, and that's a problem, especially for us. So deer hunting is more than just a sport. I mean, we are cutting down on the population of the deer so that there's less car-related accidents with those. That is something that I think is really important, because if we didn't go out and, if we didn't issue so many tags a year, just think of what the population would be right now if it wasn't for that. Another thing that we run into is some of the anti-hunting groups think that hunting is just a sport, but it really isn't. I mean, there's a famous hunter called Cameron Haynes, and he hunts deer and elk and bear and everything that you can think of, but all of the meat goes right into his freezer. He feeds his family with it, and with the price of beef going up so much, I think that hunting is more of a common thing that people are doing these days, because with prices going so high for the local beef at the grocery store, it's just easier to go out and kill a deer and be able to put food on your family's plates, and that's something that you are actually doing. Another thing that I think people think is a problem is fishing. A lot of people don't realize that there's two different kinds of fish. There's your game fish, which are your bass and your walleye and all that, and then there's your rough fish. You're running into your carp and your catfish and some of those fish there. And those are actually overpopulating and taking over some of the game fish. So I think it's important that fishing is there, and we do have limits involved, so you're not going out there and catching 100 bass or 100 walleye and just keeping them. But they have limits for that stuff, and we're weeding out some of the rough fish, which is better, so the game fish have more room. But I think that hunting and fishing is something that's really important. I think that it's more than just a sport. It's conservation, and it's helping out just the environment as well. So I think that before you go off and judge a hunter for going out and killing a deer, or going out and judging a fisherman for bringing back, fish for his family, you should think that there's more to it than just the killing of it. It's, somebody's passion, or it's putting food on the table for them. So I think it's really important.